Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 11th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mayor Cinco.
Here.
Mr. Erb.
Here.
Dr. Grieslock.
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Here.
Mr. Johns.
Here.
Mrs. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Ramsey.
Here.
Mrs. McKinney. Here. Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mrs. Worksman. Here.
And ladies and gentlemen, for those in the audience, not the audience, on TV watching us, Mr. Grieslock is out of town. As you heard, he is on our speakerphone here. And moving right along, let's move over to the public hearing on Monroeville Volunteer Fire Company Number 4 renovation project. Tax-free financing. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we are now open for our public hearing, and I would like to open it up to the floor. Does anyone in the audience here have any questions or comments on this agenda item before you? Please, if you'll come on up, you'll sign your name, and only state that you live in Monroeville, but you got to sign your address on our paper there, if you would.
My name is Donna Meyer, and I'm a resident of Monroeville. I'm president of the Berkeley Square Planned Community Association, and we live right next door to the Volunteer Fire Company Number 4.
You know, ma'am, can you maybe speak into the microphone? They're not able to hear.
Mayor, I don't know. I'm going to have one of my guys check the mic. I don't know. Please just stand by for 1 second.
Sure. Sorry.
Okay, no problem.
We'll eventually get this microphone stuff worked out, I assure you, so.
A little closer to.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can you hear her in the back, folks?
Okay, you can hear me now?
Some are saying yes, some are saying, try the other microphone. Sorry.
That's all right. Is this one any better? Yes. Okay.
There we go. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I apologize.
That's all right. I'm president of the Berkeley Square Planned Community Association, and our community is located next door to the Number 4 fire station, and my comments are just related to the fire company's plans. In March, Mr. Dan Sprouse contacted me regarding their major expansion plans. Their project included a request to use our detention pond for their stormwater overflow, and then also a proposal for an access road to the pond for regular maintenance. The association worked with Number 4 over a period of 2 months to notify the homeowners and obtain approval for this proposal. Recently, I was contacted by Mr. Sprouse, and he notified me that the company was scaling back their plans due to costs, thus eliminating the entire proposal to our community. We're disappointed they're not proceeding with the expansion, and the association, though, has 3 requests to make of the fire department at this time. Number 1 is a sidewalk construction. When Mr. Sprouse contacted me about the change in plans, he did confirm that they were going to continue with the plan to construct a sidewalk that would connect their entrance to our plan. And where our sidewalk ends, there is not a really long piece of road where you have to walk out onto the road, but it's significant enough, and this would really enhance the safety. You'd be surprised at how many people walk along Northern Pike from the surrounding community, but this is only one little piece, but it certainly would help. Also, the detention pond access. Their stormwater plan to use also provided an access road to get down into where the detention pond is. We were going to share it with them. They were going to allow their overflow to go down there. Currently, there's no usable access to our detention pond, so therefore, we're not getting any cleaning done to it. So I would ask that the Monroeville Ford Company work with the association and the municipality to provide access down to that pond. It's really an essential piece that we have some sort of access, because right now the only access are easements, which are through private property. There's nothing on that association and Monroeville property in that back area where the hillside is. So we would appreciate them working with us and the municipality to develop something back there for
Can you
access.
explain that actually the easement right now sits between two
The
physical
easement
houses?
actually is between two homes. If you take a look at our map, there is an easement running between two homes, which there isn't very much property in between them. So in that 20 feet, that's where the access is to get down over the hill. And then you've got a really steep hill for them to get down. I don't think there is any way they can put a usable road down over there. Plus, it would just tear up all the property that the people have already landscaped and have, between their homes. So I don't think there's really a feasible place for them. So what Monroeville Ford was going to do is put an access road down through that hillside coming off of their property, and then, of course, it would access our property at the bottom of the hill. And when they were going to utilize the pond, this would allow access for the municipality to get in there and for number 4, and they would, combine together, maintain that pond. As it is now, it's the municipality is responsible for maintaining it, but there is no access to get down there. So we're hoping that we can work something out.
Any comments on that?
Well, the developer at the time, which was in the 2000 era, that was the standard. They met the standards of the stormwater management requirements. And that was, and that's just not the only one. There's a lot of them that there's simply an easement, but that easement's through, it splits property lines. And if the municipality has to maintain the detention basin, they would have to use that easement, which is somebody's yard. They would have to make access and then restore it as they leave.
We've run into this problem for years.
Absolutely.
So now,
I mean, the new standards are very different.
now we
The
have
new
an
standards,
access.
you have to have a dedicated access to, for the cleaning of that. But in the old standards, you didn't.
And I think there is where they could access it on that back hillside coming off behind all our properties. I mean, that's unusable space back there, and I think there would be. We just need to be able to work with the fire company and the municipality to make sure that we can, have an appropriate access down there. And then just the last thing, it's kind of minor. We have a recycle container that sits right in between the no dumping signs that the municipality put up for us, because we've had problems with construction companies coming in and dumping over that hillside. Then we look at it and it's unsightly. And right now that recycle container sits between there, so accidental dumping occurs as well as non-accidental dumping from that recycle container. And they were going to move it to the back lot where it sits and faces the back lot rather than that hillside. So we would just like them to move it to that back lot.
I'm sure,
So-
Paul, we can handle that, I'm sure.
We've been working with them for about 3 years now. We actually had a fence
Yeah.
put up, there was grass dumping, and this is just
Right.
something they were working with through number 4, and they want to make sure this happens through the project, is what municipality and through myself have
Yeah.
been working with Berkeley Way. This is what they wanted to get done, and make sure these things weren't dropped because you're scaling down the project. So, if you can address some of these issues for her.
And so we want to remain good neighbors with number 4 because we've had a good relationship, and we hope that these requests are not a burden, will be taken into consideration. So, and I also want to take this opportunity. Our association wants to thank Mrs. Allison for her assistance over the years, because we've had a lot of problems concerning bond issues, the dumping, stormwater issues, and she's been of immense help to help us, and she's been very knowledgeable and been able to direct us to the proper people in the municipality. So we do want to thank her. We appreciate her help. So I don't know if we can get a response from the
Number
fire
4,
company
address
tonight
it.
regarding those issues.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Jason Urosic. I've been a volunteer firefighter and
Please sign in.
paramedic at
Gentlemen, both of you.
Monroeville number 4, and I'm also the treasurer. And I'd like to thank you. Berkeley Square has been great and worked with us. Dan couldn't be here tonight, but we were disappointed we weren't able. Our initial plan, and I just want to stress, it didn't involve taxpayer money. And today's hearing doesn't involve that. But we had planned on putting an addition onto our social hall where we could host some functions. And by doing that, it was going to trigger the stormwater clause, and basically our bids came in way over budget. We weren't able to do it. So to be fiscally responsible, we pared back our plan, and we are staying within the footprint of our building, basically doing a total renovation to the inside of the building, updating our social hall community room, all of our quarters for where our trucks are, our training area. And the plan then is much smaller than we had initially anticipated. But just to address your concerns, yes, we are. Our dumpster is going to be moved in the plans, and we can show you to an area that will be housed by ordinance is requiring that, and we're more than willing to do that. And also with the as far as an easement, yes, we'll definitely work with Berkeley Square for an easement. The borough wants to come in and use our property, but we were unable to put the access road in and do all that initially. But if we're definitely more than willing to work with Berkeley Square.
Sidewalk?
Yes,
Sidewalk?
the sidewalk, yes, I believe is
Gonna continue?
be continued. It's in there. It's in the plans now. So, and I wanted to thank Donna. We went over and met with everyone at Berkeley Square to explain the initial project because she was more than willing. They had to get a vote from their homeowners association, which they got. We are very thankful for that, but we continue to be good neighbors. The building is going to be much more aesthetically pleasing to the eye from you guys. Our parking, our lighting will all be improved, and we'll be able to continue to provide the service that we provide to the community, and we're looking forward to that. As far as today's hearing, though, I don't know, Mr. Dice, would you like to explain the finance hearing part?
Just so you know, this is an IRS requirement that you're really going through. The public has a right to comment. That's why there is a requirement of having a public hearing on the financing. I assume that at some point, once the financing's in place, they'll be coming back through with a site plan of sorts, right?
They originally were going through the land development application process. They have since asked for withdrawal of that application
All right.
because what they're doing is renovating the building footprint.
Okay.
So they're just doing it through a building permit application,
Okay.
which we just recently received.
All right. In any event, tonight's proceedings are simply to satisfy the IRS. You're in the process of doing that. That's all there is to it tonight.
Yeah, I'm Jim Reber. I'm an assistant chief and also part of the building committee. We nicknamed Jason here the senator because he's doing everything right on schedule and per everything and all the requirements of everybody. But just to further expand on the tax-free hearing that is the purpose of this meeting. Number one, we have to satisfy your acknowledgement that we are operating as a nonprofit entity within the borough of Monroeville. I believe we can do that. And number two, we also have to acknowledge, through your acknowledgement, that we are one of the main providers of EMS, fire, and rescue services in the borough of Monroeville. Those are the primary goals and purposes of tonight's meeting. And we can go further and discuss some of the more details of the project. We have our architect here, but we're really not anticipating to get too involved with all the bricks and mortar of the overall project. We can continue to work with Berkeley Square as we have in the past. I think we can satisfy their issues as well as meeting all the rules and regulations of borough engineering and just general site plan project.
Council, any other questions for either one of these gentlemen? Gentlemen, stick around. Obviously, I'm going to open them back up to the public. Does anybody else have any?
Yeah, this is the time for public, okay.
All right. Any other public comments from anybody sitting here with us this evening on this project?
So do we need to make a motion related to these two items?
Just motion to close the public hearing. That's all you need to do at this point.
Okay, make a motion to close the public hearing. There's any questions?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Our office will work with them to get their approvals. We've done this in other communities, so this is nothing new.
Yeah, this puts us into the tax-free financing mode of commercial bank financing. It saves us approximately 2 percentage points on our mortgage, which is
Substantial.
substantial, right?
Absolutely.
So we thank you very much and continue to work and provide the service.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Council, moving over to the approval of the minutes of the Citizens Night meeting of April 4th, 2013, and the council meeting of April 9th, 2013. Any other additions or corrections? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve the minutes as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Moving over to our reports of our tax collections. Any other additions or corrections, council? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Motion that we approve the reports of the tax collections.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Moving over to our payroll report. Again, any other corrections or additions, council? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Motion to approve payroll.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Moving over our list of bills. Any other questions or comments? We'll start off with you again, Byrne.
Have no questions this evening, sir.
Lois?
Questions answered already?
Jim? Nick, I'm sorry.
No problem. No questions, Mayor.
Jim?
Nothing, sir.
Diane?
None.
Steve?
No questions.
Clarence?
Nothing.
Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve list of bills.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
And there were no budget transfers, so we'll move over to our vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities.
Payroll? Do we
Did payroll.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did payroll.
Yeah, did payroll.
We did
You
payroll.
did?
Payroll.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
first.
sorry.
I did that first. That's okay.
Switched.
Vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. Any appointments or nominations?
Yes, Mayor, I like to appoint Mark Ducret from the Club Sport and Health to the Convention or Visitors Bureau for an unexpired term expiring December of 2013.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any others, Diane?
Nothing.
Any other appointments or nominations, council? Seeing none, we'll move right over to our proposals. And Lynette, if you would.
Yes, sealed bids were received on Tuesday, June 4th, for the library HVAC proposals. As we discussed with council, we only received one bid, and I believe council would like to move in the direction of rejecting the bid and re-advertising.
Yes, we discussed also some alternative ways to explore to get some additional bids in, and I think that's,
Yes, we've already actually investigated the advertising and have chosen to go a different route with that.
are you going to try to contact the COG as well to see if there's anything they can do? Okay, great, yeah.
Is there a motion to reject this proposal in front of you, council?
Motion to
Motion to
reject.
reject.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Lynette, if you would.
Yes, sealed proposals were received on Tuesday, June 4th, for the natural gas and in the electric supplier for the municipality. Joe Sedlak was here making a presentation. This would be using the same suppliers or the same company to work with our suppliers for the upcoming contract, and just looking to get council's approval to move forward with that.
Questions or comments? No, motion on the floor first. I'm sorry. Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve moving forward.
Second.
Questions or comments on this item before you?
This was the same place that we used last time, they actually look at over 28 different suppliers. So I think they do a very good job in doing that. And also, Joe said he was going to try to see if they could maybe beat the one closest to be able to stay so that you don't have to bother transferring all the information over.
That is correct.
Any other questions or comments, council? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
And right now, we'll move over to a public comment on agenda items only. Agenda items only. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting, and we'll go over to new business. And this is on 13-2-SUB LRC Monroeville Investors LLC. Are the applicants here?
I don't see them, Mayor, and I spoke to them today.
Any comments from you, Mr. Hugesson?
No, everything is in order. I will tell you, the only item that we talked about at the work
Mayor, can you hear
session.
me?
Yes. Very much so. Can you hear us? Nick?
Okay, yes, can you hear me, Mayor?
Yeah, very much so. Can you hear us?
I lost you for a moment there.
Okay, that might have, can you hear Paul addressing this issue on the new business?
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. I spoke to the applicant today. I anticipated them being here tonight. The only item that we sort of discussed at the work session on Thursday was the issue of the environmental cleanup. They did supply me with a letter from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection dated June 5, 2013. I'll just read it real quick. It says, I'm writing to document approval of the combined risk assessment / cleanup plan for the former Eastmont Dry Cleaners property in Monroeville, Allegheny County. The plan was prepared by Cummings Ritter and dated May 2, 2013, with revisions submitted on May 21, 2013. So they have received, an approval for their cleanup plan. So that is in order. And I added that to the conditions of approval that's in your resolution.
And obviously, since they're not here, we might as well address 13-2-ST, same company. Any other comments on that, Paul?
No. Again, the subdivision is just for a reverse subdivision, combining two lots into one, and then the associated site plan for the 2,300 square foot restaurant and associated site amenities.
Well, let's put it this way, council, any motion on the floor on these two items before you? Or no, we should take them separately, correct?
Correct.
Okay, let's go on item number 1, 13-2-SUB.
The recommendation that,
I'm sorry. I was going to ask a quick question. They agreed to do, even though they're not here, with conditions to do what you asked them to do?
Yes, sir.
They did. Sorry, go ahead.
that's what I was going to ask, is if the recommendation is of the planning commission is recommending approval of the engineering department?
Yes, everything is in order.
Well, then I recommend that we approve it.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, no, the only thing that I recall from reviewing the Planning Commission was to straighten out the question of what was the correct number on the deed book, because you had transposed numbers, 14749 versus 14794.
Yes, that's correct. What was on the drawings is correct. The application that was submitted to us was incorrect. They actually supplied us with a new application with the correct deed book and page numbers on them, as well as the lot and block numbers. So that has been corrected.
And was it either one of those two numbers?
The drawings were correct, the application was wrong. So they have corrected both of those.
We've documented the correct number, in other words?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, with a letter. Go ahead.
Well, we have a motion. Any other questions or comments on this first item before you, council? Gentleman just walked in. Do you have any-
Okay, we're right in the midst of a vote. You got to vote.
All right, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Moving over to 13-2-ST, LRC Monroeville Investors LLC. Again, I think Paul did a great job explaining that issue. Motion on the floor.
Is there anything that, I mean, if that's the applicant, is there anything that he can add that we don't have already?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Then I make a motion, we approve it.
second.
Now, questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Okay, aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Good luck on your project, sir.
You can go home.
You did a nice job. You weren't by osmosis.
It was a short night. Chipotle.
All righty, moving over to resolutions, Lynette, if you would, please.
Yes, the first resolution is a resolution adopting the Monroeville Chipotle Mexican Grill Sewage Planning Module.
Motion on the floor, council.
Move to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Lynette, if you would.
Yes, the second resolution is a resolution authorizing the proper officials to enter into an agreement with H.A. Keystone Collection Group to collect the delinquent earned income tax for the municipality of Monroeville.
Motion on the floor.
There was, there was also some question from Councilman Griesbach about when the school district is switching over to Keystone. And in your packet behind the resolution, I've included an email from Paul Schott from the school district indicating that they are also in the process of doing the same.
Did you get that, Nick?
Yes, that answered my question.
Very good, sir. Again, council, motion on the floor.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Thank you, Lynette. Moving over to ordinance. Mr.
Yeah, the
Dice.
first ordinance is an ordinance amending the code of the municipality of Monroeville, Chapter 109, which establishes duties, powers, responsibilities, and procedures for purchasing goods and services.
Motion on the floor.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call. Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Next is an ordinance to provide for the amendment of the 2013 general fund budget.
Motion on the floor, council. Council, motion on the floor.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments?
This is for the special funding for the council?
Yes. If you flip to the, you had some questions about what was removed from that. If you flip behind the ordinance, lettered M, there's a breakdown for everyone to review of exactly what has been deducted. I believe that was the question from Thursday evening, and what the remaining balance is in that line item.
And did we get this month's bill?
No, we have not.
And we feel that you're transferring 32,000?
35,000.
We feel that'll be sufficient?
Well, there's already 25,000 already in that line item, so we're adding that to it. 15. 15, sorry. So it'll give us a total of 50,000.
Any other questions or comments, council?
One
Yeah,
other one.
I have a comment there.
Please.
The issue I have is not only with the math as far as if there's actually money in this fund, but the bigger issue that I have personally is the fact that we are spending money on special legal counsel for this endeavor, so to speak.
And I also have a question.
It's your turn.
You done, Nick?
I'm done, sir.
Yeah, we do have a legal decision still pending with the assistant chief, is that correct?
You mean with the former chief?
With the, yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
There is.
So if we take these funds out, and let's say that Mr. Cole wins the case and he's to be reinstated as assistant chief, where would those funds come from?
It's not, this is the difference. He's currently getting a salary. This is the difference in the salaries. This is what would be needed if that would happen for the year. And
For
that's
the remainder of the year?
The whole year, yeah. The annual difference. That's what would be for the entire 2013. You see that right there?
Yes, I do. Thanks for the answer. That's all I have.
So a simple comment that I'd like to make is that the solicitor himself has told us that on more than one occasion that it's his recommendation is that we have special legal counsel for this situation. So we have special legal counsel investigating it.
But it's been investigating, in my opinion, more things than what it was supposed to be investigating. My opinion only.
And I agree with that.
I would wonder how it is that you would know
How
what
do you
should
get
be
that information?
investigated
That's
when the
what I'm
investigation is going on. I don't know how you could second guess that.
I just know what I was told, that's all.
I wouldn't know how anyone could second guess that.
I'm not second guessing, I just know what I was told.
From them?
What you were told?
No, from what I've heard sitting
Oh, okay,
here.
because, I mean, we haven't gotten,
Just sitting here. Nobody else. Haven't heard anything.
Well, you know what, Counsel, we will have an executive session, and you will have your opportunity to talk to the Dickey McCaney group. I certainly will have my questions for them, I assure you. I would recommend, and this is just me, I think we should table this item until we get some more answers, unless you're all comfortable with it. I mean, that's certainly your call.
What more answers are you,
Well, you see that there's some of your council colleagues have some questions on that, and that is, again, if they're comfortable voting for it, fine. If they're not, they'll say nay.
we're voting to transfer some of the money into in our budget, into the line item that we currently have some money in there for to cover expenses. If there's any line items that we have question with, they may choose to take them off or not. But to transfer it over to pay their bills, which we have some which we've already approved to pay, we need money in there. If there's questions and they choose to remove something or council wants certain things removed, there's no issue with that, but.
Yeah, well, one of the big issues, as everybody knows, is that they were given a one-item agenda to review, and they reviewed a whole lot more than just the one item, and that's where a lot of your cost is going to run up, and I think that's where, I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think that's where at least I'm coming from anyway.
Do you know where this one-item agenda is in writing? I don't know that any.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
agenda-
just HIPAA, but it was a whole lot more than just the HIPAA violation they reviewed. And I'm not even sure that they even interviewed all the applicants that they were supposed to. I'm not sure that they interviewed the fire department yet. If they have, I have not heard that one.
They put this in.
Well, then it sounds like I think we're all due for an update in our executive session.
Well, it's supposed to be a closing, is my understanding, so. All right, council, there's a motion and a second. No other questions or comments? Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye?
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Dice.
Okay, the last ordinance is an ordinance amending ordinance number 848 and 2585, regulating parking on Hazel Drive.
Motion on the floor, council.
Move to approve the ordinance?
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye?
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Dice, and now we'll move over to public comments. And if you will bear with me, folks, let me see if anybody signed in first. Looks like there's just one signed in.
Thank you.
Lou Smith, if you would, please. Just one. Please state your name and where you live, not your address.
My name's Lou Smith, and I live in Monroeville. I'd like to start off tonight by first thanking all the voters that came out on Election Day.
Lou, may I interrupt for 1 second? And this is not just for you, this is for anybody that wants to address council. Please address your comments to me as the chair, if you would, please.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Again, I would like to thank all the voters that came out for the primary election. They did what needed to be done here, and I certainly concur with their opinions. Contrary to belief of probably some members of council here, I don't really like coming up here. I don't enjoy public speaking, but they made it such to me that I feel it's imperative that I do. And I want them to know that I'm going to continue to be here until these issues that has arisen in the last few months are either resolved or whatever. Now, last week, I wasn't here, but it was a coincidence that I happened to turn the TV on, and lo and behold, Lois Drumheller was on the microphone speaking of all things, the First Amendment. The right to freedom of the press, the freedom of a religion, and lo and behold, the freedom of speech. Well, coincidentally, that's why I'm here tonight. And I'd like to say to Mrs. McKinney, you're pretty good at spending money here in Monroeville. I happened to look in the paper about a week or so ago. I don't know if everybody saw it or not, but there was a article in the paper, and I'll read just a portion of it. And it states, a rare copy of the original Bill of Rights, possibly one George Washington sent to Pennsylvania for ratification in 1789, will go on public display for the first time in decades in the fall of 2014 at Philadelphia National Constitution Center. One of the 12 surviving copies of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, which guarantee bedrock American rights, such as the freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, and the right to a fair trial, will be put on display through 2017 at the Constitution Center, they said, starting Wednesday. I think that would be one great field trip for about 4 members of council here to go on.
Mayor.
I must now make reference to 2 days that just passed here recently, one being Memorial Day, the end of May, and the other being D-Day on June the 6th, when our very brave troops in World War II stormed the beaches of Normandy. I, along with a lot of other people in this community, served their country, and I'm proud of it. I served for 4 years, 2 of those years in the Philippine Islands. When you're in the military, you give some. You give your time away from your family, sometime in foreign lands, and it's a very much a growing experience. I'd like to ask Mr. Erb if he was ever in the military, but I won't. I think I know the answer to that, because if he
Mr. Mayor,
was...
can I answer?
Please.
Okay.
You all, just again.
I'm asking you if I can answer.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you.
It's up to the mayor.
I attempted to get in the military. I was 4F because I had cancer as a child, and I was not allowed in.
Okay. Anyhow, then, my comment would be that if you had served, maybe you would have a better appreciation for what I'm about to tell you. You see, some guys like me, we gave some. Some gave a lot. And by them, I mean the wounded warriors that fought for this country, that lost their arms, their legs, their eyes, sometimes their sanity. And then there's some that gave all. And they're buried in foreign lands, on foreign soil. They're buried at different veteran cemeteries throughout this country, and in the Arlington National Cemetery. We fought wars and got boots on the ground right now in Afghanistan, Iraq, the Republic of Vietnam, Korea, World War I, World War II, and every war all the way back to when we fought our Declaration of Independence to protect the rights and the freedom that we are lauded to have as American citizens. Well, guess what? That was denied me, and that was denied every person that was going to speak after me on May the 9th. With a motion made to adjourn by Mr. Erb, seconded by Lois Drumheller, a roll call vote had to be taken at that point, and Mrs. Allison and Clarence Ramsey both concurred, and the meeting was ended, violating my constitutional right of free speech. I mention this because I have recently filed a complaint with the American Civil Liberties Union, and I'm awaiting to hear from them very shortly, from the attorneys there. They have a copy of the meeting and my written complaint. Within the last several days, I have finally filed the ethics with the Ethics Board in Harrisburg against 4 council people here, and I look forward to hearing from them also. I find it's reprehensible, and I can't believe that he has the audacity to put his name in to run for mayor, and that's Mr. Bernhard Erb. Because I don't believe he's fit to run for any office after what he pulled here. He violated his oath of office, as did each member of this council that voted to shut me down. I'm going to read something to them, and I hope they remember what this was about. And it says, I do, your name, Mr. Erb, Mrs. Drumheller, Mrs. Allison, or Mr. Ramsey. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and all valid ordinances, and that I will faithfully and impartially perform and discharge the duties of the office of councilperson according to law to the best of my ability, so help me God. So help me God. This was then sworn to by these 4 people. I think it's disgusting. Not only did they violate my rights under the First Amendment, but they violated Section 408 of the Home Rule Charter, which states, the opportunity to address council shall also be afforded to the public at all business meetings at a time designated in the agenda by the mayor. Mr. Erb, by the time I'm done before November the 5th, I doubt your wife will even want to vote for you. And I'll tell you what,
Quite out of hand.
if you really look in the mirror when you're shaving that morning on November the 5th, and you examine your conscience of what kind of behavior you've exhibited out here, I don't think you'd vote for yourself. I want you to know, before November 5th, I don't know whether you know what a implant surgeon does, but I'll explain it to you real quick. An implant surgeon implants hearts, liver, stuff like that. Well, I plan on being so far up your rear end, mister, that you're going to need an explant surgeon to get me out.
Mr. Mayor, this meeting, while there's a bit of political fanfare that
And I
happens at
will
all of
not
these
be
meetings.
interrupted by you tonight, Mr. Erb, and I'm
And I
telling
don't
you right
disagree with
now,
that.
be
This
quiet.
is their time, Bern. And how many times have I said to this audience and to those that are watching at home, you may not like what you're going to hear. I've been beat up here as well. All of us have. This is this man's right.
It certainly is. It is certainly.
Well, then be quiet, Mr.
It
Erb.
is certainly his right
I earned the right
address.
to come up here and talk. I
Yes.
earned that right. And everybody in this room has that right.
That's true, that is true.
I don't want to hear from you either, Lois.
Mayor, point of order. We need to address something right now.
I don't
We
recognize
need to
your
address-
point
Mayor,
of order. He had
Mayor.
the floor,
No,
and
the
you
point
all
of order
interrupted
has to
him.
do with the way that the decorum of this meeting should be run. Now, it was explained Thursday night.
Lois, I will
We
ask
have
you
First
one more
Amendment
time
rights.
to please
To
button it
peaceably-
up. This is my.
Mayor,
This is a
is
piece
this
of
man or
order.
gavel or
Continue.
gagger?
This was slander.
Continue.
This is slander. This is slander.
It's not slander.
Yes, it is. And it's actually,
Violation of my rights.
Mr.
I'm
Smith.
done.
it's actually a violation of the
Violation of
Constitution.
my rights.
It's actually a violation of the Constitution, sir.
Would anybody else like to address council? Please so, please sign in. And again, I'm going to say before you come up, Sam, again, I know that some of this is not comfortable for anybody to hear, but it is your right, no matter if you're saying stuff about me or any other member up here. It's not nice, it's not comfortable for some, but it's when you take up and want to sit in this seat, that can happen. You'll either hear positives or you'll hear negatives. And I'm sorry it was negative, but it's the man's right to say what he had to say. Please state your name and where you're
Sam
from.
Garfolo, resident of Monroeville. I have a question back to the special counsel. I don't know if you can answer. The people that were interviewed, were they just interviewed, or were they legally deposed, where we had a stenographer?
Sam, I can't honestly answer that. I would assume.
I understand, being I worked out here, I still hear a lot of things from people. I hear somebody change their story 3 times in interviews. I just wondered if these were legal depositions and they could be, charged with perjury, or was it just we wasting money on a private detective interviewing people? A little bit of difference between interviewing and deposing. So I don't know.
I don't disagree with you on that, but again, we're going to be in an executive session. We're going to find out a whole lot more, and it will be public.
Yeah. Well, I'd just be interested, because like I said, I just understand somebody's changed their story 3 times as to the HIPAA violation.
You
That's
know
what
more than
thought.
I do on that. I've not heard that, so.
All right, thank you.
Once again, I'll open it up to the floor for anybody that would like to address council. This is certainly your time. Seeing none, we'll close that proportion of the meeting, and we'll move over to the reports of our officials. And I do know that we have our executive session. Maybe before we go to that, council, would you like to go to your reports first? And
I
then
would.
end with that?
I would.
Okay. Bruce, we'll go to you first. Anything more for us?
I have nothing further.
Clarence? Steve?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, we have roughly 5 blighted homes in the 6th Ward, and I've been contacted by numerous residents on high grass and such. What I'm going to do, and what I'd like to do, is get a list together, and get the residents, possibly we could have a meeting with Paul and the engineering and code enforcement, possibly here, and discuss what we can and what we cannot do. I mean, we're having rat situations. These homes are I mean, they're terrible to look at. I go and I tell the residents, we're going to put a lien on them. I just don't know what answers to give to the residents that have to live next to this garbage. And it's terrible.
I have a report on that as well, so.
So if there's any residents in the 6th Ward or throughout the municipality that want to contact me, and possibly we could all get together on a date where we could meet and at least discuss what we can and can't do. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to wish my son, whose birthday is today, happy birthday, Tyler, 12 years old today, June 11th. So I'm sorry I'm not there, but hopefully I'll be home soon for cake. Also, I'd like to send the kudos out to the police department. Before I was leaving, they actually were active in arresting a wanted person for burglaries. There was a witness to someone breaking in a home. Within 2 minutes, they had the house surrounded. Got the person, there was an active warrant for this person, so it was a daylight robbery, one more off the street, so send kudos out to the second shift, Monroeville Police Department, great job. School's out, so please be extra vigilant with the kids riding bikes. Happy Father's Day to all dads this Sunday. And lastly, the upcoming events at the Monroeville Convention Center, Amazing Pet Expos, is Saturday, June 29th, and admission is free. And also Greenberg's Train and Toy Show, which is a consistent event to come to the Monroeville Convention Center they'll be here July 13th and 14th. Admission is $7, and children under 12 are free. That's all.
Thank you. Jim?
Yes, the only thing I have for the residents that are concerned about Northern Pike Hill, both going down and going up, it looks like a garbage skull. I've been working on it with Mr. Hugas. Joe Marcosi called me today. He gave me his word that he's going to look into it tomorrow morning, and hopefully we're going to get somebody down there to try to straighten it up. I even made the comment, it might sound a little goofy, because I live there. I said, shut the road down. I don't care what you do with it. Go around it. Shut it down and get in there and fix what needs fixed and put it back together the right way. They've repaired that gas leak so many times it's almost annoying. They need to get in there and fix it the right way. And hopefully that'll be done soon. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Lois?
Yes, Mayor. Speaking of follow-up on projects, in follow-up with the Giant Eagle Plaza, the Glimshire Group has confirmed once again that they are on schedule for that sinkhole to be mitigated, and that's going to be taking the remainder of the year for it to be back to to being able to have to have an entrance and an exit as it used to be prior to 2011 September when the sinkhole occurred. So we can all look forward to that beginning soon. Just a couple of reminders here. One of the functions on the senior in the senior center. I want to remind everybody, June 13th. That's this Thursday. That Max and Irma's, and these are the coupons that we alerted everybody to the website. If they would go to the municipal website and print out some coupons that anyone going to Max and Irma's for a meal Thursday, June 13th, they won't get a discount on their meal. However, 20% of that meal will be donated to the senior center. So it's a good way to go out and enjoy a meal, Max and Irma's, and also donate to the senior center. Senior Center has some functions coming up. Strawberry Social, June 19th, and the deadline for tickets is June the 12th. Don't forget the monthly luncheons that are always available, and the fourth Tuesday trips to the theater, silver sneaker classes, and I think pretty much that's the news for the Senior Center. I do want to, before TV Joe shows a few pictures taken this last weekend, I want to remind people of the municipality about the Monroeville Food Garden. For those of you who don't know, the idea for the food garden was born a little over 2 years ago, and that's become quite a success. The garden is the only USDA certified People's Garden, which is an initiative from actually Michelle Obama, but also the USDA to try to encourage communities to have gardens that offer educational and benefits to the community, such as storm water management. So we have a garden that was started 2 years ago. The garden has since produced more than 1,000 pounds of fresh organic produce, and we have given that to 4 local food pantries. The food pantries include Garden City Food Pantry, Monroeville Assembly of God Food Pantry, Crossroads Presbyterian Church Food Pantry, and Pitcairn Food Pantry. Now, this has been an all-volunteer effort, and we're always looking for volunteers for the garden. It just totally operates off of that effort. The idea was fostered by the sustainable food movement and through the permission of the municipality. So we initially planted this behind the Monroeville Public Library in the early summer of 2011. That was 500 pounds of produce that year, 500 pounds of produce last year, and we have begun the third year of the garden on this last Saturday, June the 8th. By the way, we kind of partnered with our local other community gardens, such as the Penn Hills Community Garden, which is not that far, and they taught us about fence building, which is the addition that we have added to the garden. The garden is in, and it's in the second phase of fencing that's going to commence on this coming Saturday, June 15th. So I have about 5 pictures here, and if you'll show the first one, you'll see that the garden is kind of a broad view of it, the new plantings, and these are all put in Saturday. And you'll note some marigolds there, which they do very well to curb the nematodes around the plantings. We obtained some of that rich dark dirt. Actually, that's all compost this year from Chelsea's Nursery in Elizabeth Township. And those plants were donated. Most of them donated. Some of them bought because we couldn't get zucchini donated this year. But June Rose was totally donating all of the plants that they gave us, as well as Winnie Ritter, who raises tomato plants. You should see her home. They're just full of them this spring. So they're all in, and the long-term goal would be to develop our own compost, perhaps, which it's a doable goal, which might take a few years to do. So we'll go to the second picture here. It shows a little bit more of the 2 rows of the garden there. And of course, this garden and design, the design in it is called permaculture, which it's another way of using the most natural way of the contour of the land, plus what plantings support other plantings. We want to foster things like, natural pollinators, bees, and in these 2 rows, we have a vegetative swale. You can see it behind the second, in between the rows there. That acts as a sponge to retain water. It also mitigates a little bit of storm water going down the hill. So this is the component that really makes it beneficial to use it in stormwater management. Fact is, the library would like to use and has begun to use some of these things to control stormwater runoff around the library. And that's going to be growing over the years as well. If anybody wants to know more about that type of permaculture design, there are a lot of people who are experts. I can put you in touch with them. Please just give me a call. Third picture here, I want to just recognize one of our gardeners. Who it's going to be very difficult to tell who that is. However, that's Karen Howell at the far end there. This was in the planning phase before we put that was just string out there. So that was before the fence went up. That was there to mark the fence. And I not only want to recognize Karen for her volunteerism, but other gardeners that have been very active: Sandy McFall, Susan Cardoza, Penny Morse, Georgiana Woodhall, and our newest volunteer, Jake Cothern. Then the next picture, I think you'll see Jake, but that's a distant one as well. He's going to be a senior this next year. He's quite a botanist. He's interested in the sustainable gardening movement. He's interested in all kinds of things that way. He's documenting his experiment on his end of the garden with tending to what he does. He's carefully documenting it. And he's just a walking encyclopedia of things that are related to plants I haven't considered anyway. But bear in mind, all the produce coming out of this garden will go to the food banks, his as well. It's just that he's taking care of his section. And then the last picture here would be far end of the garden, and this is with the fencing up. If you look carefully, after we sledgehammered those 7-foot U-posts into the ground all the way down, we then pressed this rigid fencing that goes up about 2.5 or 3 feet. And then we'll finish that fencing this next Saturday. Hint, if any volunteers would like to join us. And we'll bring that fencing, which is a little wobblier, all the way up to the top of the post. And this will effectively, we hope, discourage the groundhogs from massacring the zucchini as they did last year. I will be updating the garden, but the best way to really keep up with the garden is to visit it, which I hope everybody will as they visit the library. And that's all I have.
Nick, do you have anything for us?
I would like to remind everyone that the Bel Air pool is open and to support the pool. And that's my only comment for this evening, Mayor.
Thank you, Nick. Vern.
Only thing that I'd like to say is the library has their reading program going on for the summer, both for adults and for children of all ages. The library is going to be turning 50 next year. They've got a lot of activities planned. They're looking for things that commemorate things that have happened over the last 50 years in Monroeville. So if you have items that you might want to share, please contact them. And also, they have the race coming up in September, which is the book blast, which is a way that they raise some money for the library. Other than that, thanks for attending. Mr. Mayor.
And I'll wrap it up before we go to executive session. To further expand on what Mr. Duncan was talking about in regards to blighted homes, or if you're having issues with folks just not taking care of their property, please, if you get a chance, Mr. Shufo and I did a program on the Monroeville on the Move, which I do on a monthly basis. I try to bring you updated information. Basically, we're going to be much more aggressive in enforcing all the ordinances and codes. I would ask that you please contact your council people, and/or you can call into the municipal building. All the contact information on Mr. Shufo and Tim Dayton, our other code enforcement officer, is on that program as well. I would encourage you that it is now time to take our communities, all our community back, if you will. There are some absent landlords out there. I assure you, we are going to deal with you, and hopefully we'll get this situation resolved. It's terrible. As I traveled, I said to you before, around, because of the election, I have to hit all 7 wards. There are so many in each ward that we need to address, and I'm asking you as residents, if you love Monroeville, and I know all of you do, please help us help our community. And obviously, to all the fathers on Father's Day, happy Father's Day coming up. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to go to executive session on personnel reasons, if you would, please.
Manager's report first.
Well, it's just on the hip. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Don.
That's where that was supposed to be.
Go ahead, I apologize.
Yes, Mayor. I received notification from Dickie McCain. There's an email attached. It's the last sheet in your agenda packet. They have concluded their investigation, and they would like to schedule an executive session with council, possibly Wednesday or Thursday of next week. That'll be the 19th or the 20th. The 19th is actually our planning commission evening, so if council can make it, I was going to recommend the 20th.
That would sit fine with me. I don't know if anybody else wants to weigh in.
Would that be at 7 p.m., Lynette?
We can set it up at whatever is comfortable for council.
Council, I'd certainly like to hear from everybody.
Would that be preferable to you, Nick?
That night's fine, so whatever time council decides.
It's okay with me, too.
Same.
Is that the 20th?
Yeah.
The 20th. Clarence, Steve, Diane,
I
everybody
gotta check.
okay?
I'm getting ready to go out of town. I have to find out when I'm leaving. I'll check.
Now, this was just in the packet tonight, so,
We just received an email. If you look at the email, Councilman Duncan, we just received it today.
the 20th is good, I guess.
Okay, with that, then, obviously, we have our date, and is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn to executive
To
session.
executive session?
Make a comment, please. Can I make a comment?
No, sorry. There's a motion and a second, all in
No,
favor?
I didn't hear a second.
I thought I
Second.
heard a-
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we're in the executive session.